what's going on, my fellow idiots? Welcome back to another episode of Idiot Proof Cooking. We got a nice and easy one for you today. I'm going to be making some pesto. I love making pesto. It's super easy to make and it's so good. Don't get me wrong, the store-bought stuff is good, but if you make it at home, it's just so much better. And after I make the pesto, I'm going to just make some spaghetti noodles and make some pesto pasta. Nice and easy. So let's get into making it. Okay, so to make some pesto, we're going to need some pine nuts, specifically a half cup of them. Now, you can use other nuts if you want, like macadamia, almonds, walnuts, cashews. Those would work fine, but traditionally pesto uses pine nuts. And we're going to toast these. So what we'll do is get ourselves a large baking sheet, and we'll carefully pour the half cup of pine nuts on the baking sheet. And then I'm just going to spread them out with my hands a little bit here, and then I'm going to preheat my oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'm going to toast these in the oven for 5 to 7 minutes until they come out nice and golden brown and looking something like this. And then just let them cool down for 10 to 15 minutes. Once they have cooled down, get out your food processor because it's time to start making the pesto. So carefully pour your pine nuts in. You don't want to spill them after all. And then we're going to add in 1 cup of freshly grated parmesan cheese. Into the food processor it goes. Next in is some cloves of garlic. So I've got 3 rather large cloves of garlic. That's what I'm going to do. Throw them into the food processor and then just firmly affix your lid on your food processor, and we're going to whiz this all together for just about a minute or two until it all blends together. It is going to start forming a paste due to the oil in the nuts and the cheese obviously as well. But once all that's combined, go get your fresh basil. Now I have about 2.5 cups of fresh basil here, so I'm just going to pour it into the food processor along with everything else. Carefully, Will, you don't want to spill it. And then I'm going to throw in a good pinch of kosher salt, and then last but not least, a few twists of fresh ground black pepper. Reaffix the lid on your food processor and then start blending it all together and start slowly pouring in some olive oil until the pesto starts to form into a nice, smooth paste. Now what might happen is it'll stick to the sides of the wall of the food processor, so just kill the power for a minute, scrape down along the sides of the food processor, and then just start it back up and keep blending. Now what I'm going to do here is just continuously stream a little bit of the olive oil in until it's rather smooth and runny. You don't want it to be too thick. You want it to be a fairly loose paste. As you can see here, it's blending up quite nicely, so you really only have to blend it for about a minute, maybe a minute and a half, and then you're going to get a pesto looking like that. Look at how gorgeous that is. Look at that. It looks fantastic. Alright, you know what? I want to give you a quick close-up shot of it here. Look at that, look at that. And there it is in a bowl. So let's give this a quick taste test. And how is it, Will? And wow, was that good. Oh yeah, that's fantastic. So you know what, let's go cook our pasta now and get on with this. So I've got my large cast iron pan here in the kitchen heating up, and I've got a large pot of water boiling off to the side that I'm going to cook my pasta in. I'm going to throw a little bit of kosher salt into the water, and then I'm going to drop in about a pound of spaghetti noodles and just let those cook for about 10 minutes. Now back to the pesto. I'm going to first melt a couple of tablespoons of unsalted butter in my cast iron pan, because you know what, a little bit of butter in your pasta certainly doesn't make it any worse. But once the butter's melted, I'm going to carefully pour all of my pesto into the hot cast iron pan, and then I'm just going to stir it all together with the butter to make sure that it's all fully combined together. And then once that's done, I'm going to get out a measuring cup and reserve 1 cup of the boiling pasta water. The starch in the water will make the noodles nice and creamy if you pour a little bit of it in when you're mixing it in with the sauce. So reserve 1 cup of the pasta water. Then once the pasta is done cooking, you're just going to drain it out into a strainer and then carefully pour the noodles into your awaiting pesto. We're almost done. And then I'm just going to get the pasta water and then just pour in a couple of tablespoons of it and start mixing this all together with the pesto. It's going to be nice and creamy. Now you can always add in more pasta water if you need it to be a little bit more creamy, but as you can see here, I think I got the right mix right off the bat. Just a couple of tablespoons. So just keep mixing this all together until the spaghetti noodles are thoroughly coated with the pasta, and look at how gorgeous this is. So let's go into the other room and start trying this out. All right, there is my pesto pasta. Let me give you a quick close-up shot. Look at how beautiful that looks. And let me tell you, it smells amazing. Just the smells coming off this is so damn good. So let's get a plate out and then start plating this up. So I'm just going to pull some of the spaghetti out here carefully out of the pan and onto my plate here. And I'm going to give myself a fairly decent helping of this. You know what, I'm not always the biggest pasta fan, but the smell of this, I know I'm going to devour this. So there we go. Look at that. Look at how gorgeous that pesto looks on there. All the little flecks of the basil in there as well as the pine nuts. Oh, it smells so good. So let's get some fresh parmesan. Now I'm going to put a fairly liberal amount on. There's no such thing as too much parmesan if you ask me. So put that on, and then last but not least, I'm just going to throw on a few additional twists of freshly ground black pepper, and it's time to start eating this. All right, here we go. Let's do this taste test. So I'm going to get myself a fairly large bite here, roll it up with my fork, and with the first bite, let me tell you, wow, was this good. Wow, it was so rich and delicious, and it was nutty with the pine nuts in there, and the fresh basil taste came through. This was perfect. So good. Don't get me wrong, I like store-bought pesto. It's fantastic, but you know what? When you make it yourself, it is so much better. This was fantastic, and you know what? Rose devoured a ton of this later on because we had this for dinner. It was so damn good. So you know what? You should try making something similar at home. But that is the end of the episode. Let's call it there. I hope you like what you saw here today, and if you did, why don't you drop me a comment, like the video, or even subscribe to the channel. Thanks again for watching Idiot Proof Cooking. We'll see you again soon.